Hi, folks. Welcome to Adjust Quincy. I put together a little bit of a preview for the three main articles in this week's newsletter. Uh, Hope you enjoy. So, I want to introduce you to probably one of the most in depth, longest reports I've written. So, first of all, that's why there hasn't been a newsletter in a few days. I have really been working long into every night on figuring out this deferment raise situation we find ourselves in. And so I invite you to take a look. This is going to be released in a number of different ways. First of all, there's the magnum opus New Yorker style article that really gets into the cracks of everything, and that is available to any of my paid Substack subscribers. But still, the reporting is available for everyone. There's a more of a summary article that'll be available here for you that covers all the important points. It just doesn't get into the detail that the other article gets into. And then I'm going to be following up with a bunch of side quests that I'll explain later. But there's various paths that I could have taken on, but I didn't because it was already getting long enough. But still, there's some really interesting stuff to talk about, and I'm calling them the little side quests, and they will be available for subscribers, and the summaries, of course, will be available for everybody. Anything that you as citizens and residents need to know about will be available. So anyway, thank you for your patience, and let's dig into this. Any hopes of avoiding the 2024 raises died the moment the first vote was cast on Election Day. From then on, the deferral box was shut tight. State law bars salary changes in the lame duck period, and the prior council had never amended the raise ordinances. So even before the new members were finished winning their elections, it was clear they would inherit the very pay structure they had campaigned against. Electoral turnover did not repeal the ordinances. Members of the new council began receiving compensation even before they took their first vote. Do you remember back in August when the mayor and the fire department leaders stood in the Grand Hall and announced that Quincy's turnout gear had tested positive for PFAS, those so-called forever chemicals?
The rates of occupational cancer rates for firefighters are truly stunning. For a number of specific cancers, the risk is double the average person. Cancer is the leading cause by a long shot of line of duty deaths for firefighters. And we've had some new gear that we purchased in recent years. And over the years, it was learned that there were chemicals in that gear known as PFAS, which is known as one of the forever chemicals. And it stays persistent in the environment. Not a good thing.
It was a dramatic press conference, and it seemed rather unusual to me. But now we're at the next chapter. More gear has reportedly tested positive, particularly the outer shell. And I'm not an expert on fire gear, but apparently there's like an outer shell, there's a moisture barrier, and a thermal liner. And the outer shell of the gear tested with fluorination levels above 10%. So that is not good, apparently. So to replace the gear, the administration is asking the city council to approve a $2.6 million bond. And depending on the financing terms, that could mean probably around $4 million paid over time. So turnout gear lasts about 10 years, according to the articles I've read. So if this is a 20-year bond, taxpayers could be paying the debt service on this long after the equipment is retired. But let me be clear. If there's a cancer risk, you do it. You pay the money. Full stop. Firefighters face elevated occupational cancer rates, and if we can reduce their exposure, you do it. That's all there is to it. But the Patriot Ledger requested to see the test results, and they were told that it was not going to be turned over because of pending litigation. The city's going to sue the company that was responsible for manufacturing either the material or the actual outer layer. Um, and so basically, Chris Walker said, this is going to be part of pending litigation, so we're not turning it over. Um, and so some may say that the firefighters union and the mayor say it's dangerous. That's all you need to know. You don't need to see the tests. But you do. I mean, that's why the city ran the tests, because you do need to run these tests and see them. What they're saying is you, the residents of Quincy, don't need to see the tests. So protecting our firefighters is not controversial, and neither is doing the people's due diligence. And when you're borrowing millions of dollars and preparing to sue a manufacturer, evidence matters. The people of Quincy sent a message this past fall. They do not want the city council to be a rubber stamp. They want the council to review the evidence, ask questions, and protect the public interest. A loyal opposition doesn't weaken government, it strengthens it. And also, there's another tension here. If tipping your hand or tainting a jury pool is a concern, that's understandable. But then it raises a fair question, which is why did we have a highly public press conference announcing all this if we were concerned about those things? So that's what we're talking about in the article today. So if you want to read into this, some of the more of the details, it'll be in the newsletter. Thanks. Another thing I want to get into is school committee. I haven't been doing enough work on school committee, and I'm the first to admit it. It's not a part of the government process that I'm overly familiar with. And so sometimes I feel out of depth, and so I shy away from it. But I want to change that. And one of the things that I can do now with some of the support I'm getting from supporters who are paying for subscriptions is I can add to the team a little bit. And one of the people I want to add to the team is a school committee correspondent, someone who just really knows these issues pretty well, likes to talk about them, and can help me out, maybe drafting some articles. I'm happy to help with that, but the actual knowledge of the issues is not where I'm strongest. So if anybody is interested in talking to me about maybe being a part of this team, please reach out. info@adjustquincy.com. But what I wanted to write about this week is master planning, which is something that school committee member Perdios has brought up now for a little while. And she brought up starting a subcommittee back towards the end of last year. And she wasn't invited to speak about it at a committee meeting. And then the other night, she made a motion to start a subcommittee on this topic, and it was voted down along, I don't want to say party lines because that doesn't really apply, but along the lines of people who often align with the mayor and people who are kind of newer, and member Perdios, who's often, on her own on some of the issues. But I know her voice is important because I know there are a lot of community members who see her as speaking for them. So I want to know what's going on there. So I started looking into it. And so read the article. Please give me some feedback. If I'm off on some of my conclusions, let me know. And if there are other things I should be talking about on school committee, let me know. Thanks.
So tonight I'm proposing to my colleagues on the school committee that we form an ad hoc subcommittee that will focus on district-wide master planning as a way of proactively looking at issues across the district in a holistic and collective way. As we heard about at Lincoln Hancock, we have multiple buildings across the district with space issues, schools that have temporary classrooms and hallways and media centers, and students learning in areas with half walls that allow for distractions and disruptions and are not conducive to the highest level of attention and learning for our students and educators.